When I was 5, I moved to a little town in Arkansas. My parents had picked a pretty big house, and we paid a little less than most houses on the market. For the sake of knowing details, it was a 2-story house with access to attic. I lived on the 2nd floor. The earliest memories I have of the house were me playing dolls in my room, sitting on my rug and talking to my imaginary friend Celia. Celia was a shy girl, and she only came out to play when my parents were downstairs, on a work call, etc. I only lived in the house for a few years, so some of the stories my mom told me, there are 3 things. First off, it started with things going missing. Second off, once a night, at the same time every single night, I'd hear a tiny bell ring from my closet. For me, being 6 years old, I thought nothing of it. Of course, I was a happy child, but I always have my dad check under my bed and in the closet. Whenever I heard the bell, I'd go to the closet and open it, and Celia and I would hang out in my room. Because I was a child, I had to go to bed around 7. Unless I was super tired, I'd stay up playing with my dolls. As long as I was in my bed, my parents didn't care if I was up. Once I heard the bell ring, Celia and I would talk about running away or going to take my parents to truck or something like that. I was a pretty good kid, so normally talked her out of it. I don't remember much from here, so number 3 is my mom's story. My mom told me she never knew about Celia. She stayed at the same time. Every night she thought I was just talking to myself, playing with my toys like it was my little routine. She told me that one night she went to check on me, saw me with a dirty woman in my room. Obviously she freaked out, but didn't want to freak me out, so she suddenly shut the door as quietly as possible and sprinted downstairs. She called the cops and they told her to stay as calm as possible, make noise coming up the stairs so that I'd know she was coming up. She and my dad took me out of the room and out of the house into the car. She locked the doors and she played music to keep me from getting frantic. When the police got there, they stormed into the house and came out with the woman. They said she had been living in my closet wall and there was a stash of stuff behind my dresser in a hole in the wall. We moved shortly thereafter. We heard nothing else about the woman. I lived in Canada for 2 years and shared a house with my housemates and the landlord. As most people do when they move to a new place, me and my housemates loved chatting with the landlord, Megan. She was the most kind and charming person you could ever meet. We used to talk often downstairs and she'd sometimes tell me she could see things and dream about the future. I was like, what do you mean? And she said, well, you know, like a sixth sense. I didn't really believe it and just tried to laugh it off. Then she told me a few stories, but I thought she was trying to scare me since she liked joking around and knew I was gullible. One day I was knackered from taking final exams, and sure enough I had fallen asleep quite early after dinner. Then I woke up for a second to hear the door open, but I was too tired to rub. I was walking about around 5 in the morning. I went downstairs to drink some water. As I went downstairs, I saw Megan smoking a cigarette in the living room. That was so unusual, because she didn't smoke in the living room and never came out of her room during the night time. She looked so pale and scared as if she'd seen something that she should have seen. My girl told me something was wrong and asked her what happened. She opened her mouth and said, I don't know how to deal with it. And she told me about her dream the night before. She saw a family going on a picnic with their dog in the dream. It was so random since she'd never met them in her life. The park was one of those close to our house. The son was a tall guy and was walking the dog on leash. they went into the woods a bit far from where they set up a spot. But then, as they were out of sight, he suddenly strangled the dog with the leash. The dog was left in the woods. He ran back to the spot and told his mom that the dog has got off the leash and been missing. The dream was so real that she even remembered what the dog looked like. And a few hours back, someone knocked on the door and she came down to see who they were. As she opened the door, she freaked out and felt shivers down her spine. They were the family she saw in her dream. It turned out they were one of the neighbors in our area, and they'd been looking for the dog all day. They couldn't find it and ended up visiting each neighbor one by one during the night. As the son told Megan how he had lost the dog in the woods, slowly he began to cry, but clearly with the look on his face and tears were fake. It was disgusting, yet she had no idea how to tell the truth to his mom. They wouldn't believe her even if she told them about the dream, because it was just a dream, and they would never find the dog. Ever. One of her stories that I still remember is about her best friend. She and him had known each other since they were children. One day he came over to us and they had drinks with a few other friends. He was gonna see his cousins in a week. And since they lived quite far from his place, he had to drive more than 8 hours to see them. During the night before he left, Megan had a dream that he got shot by a stranger at a bar and died. She had the feeling that this was actually going to happen to him. Immediately rang him. He picked up the phone and she told him everything she saw, crying and begging him not to leave. He was silent on the phone and then calmly said,
"Megan, it is what it is. If it's my destiny, then I should take it. We can't change the future."
He was found dead at the bar the day after and never came back. This story came back today in 2017 when Megan went to the dental clinic. Although her dentist seemed to be an ordinary man, when Megan saw him awkwardly smiling at her, she somehow found him terrifying. And this extremely unpleasant feeling was absolutely appalling her. As he came up to her, she was so frightened and shouted at him, "Step back! No, I want to be another dentist. I'm not going for you." He asked, "What's wrong?" She said, "You know what? I see spiritual things and you're different to other normal people. Who the hell are you?" I'm done. I'll never come to this place again. Bye." He didn't say anything back to her, but just chuckled. His name is Gabriel Waldman, who disguised himself as a police officer and killed 22 people with a shotgun from the 18th to 19th of April 2020. When he watched the news and saw his face on the screen, Megan started shaking her hands and lost her words. To this day, I'll never forget her frightened look. The last time we saw him was about 2 weeks ago. My mother was the last to see the boy. I was in my room doing my school when she came in telling me if I had to run to the kitchen because she saw a head of hair running into the hallway. I was in my room the entire time and hadn't come out. So when my family and I first moved into our current home, we found the weird things like a weird drawing in the back of the closet, but we thought nothing of it. During my time here, I'd hear stomping, the water faucet turning on, and my sister has even said that she once heard the sound of a baby crying under her bed. The boy has come around before, but just recently he started to show up a lot more. I do online school, and sometimes when I get left alone, I hear someone running just in my hallway. I never get to see a full image of what it looks like, but I do know that he could be about 3'6" and has short dark wavy hair. This story is an experience that will stay with me for the rest of my life. It happened when I was 10 years old, just a few months after my mom had passed away. I was at home alone with my little sister. We had just got home from school. I finished making dinner, so I was gonna take a shower. Usually when I showered, I listened to music and sing. So I was in the shower singing my heart out, and the music was loud. All of a sudden, the songs on the radio started changing, and the volume of the music kept turning down the back up. It stopped on a song me and my mom used to sing. I thought it was weird, but ignored it, until I heard my mom start to sing with me in the shower. I was so scared, I couldn't move or cry or do anything. Then I felt hands on my head and breathing on my neck. Finally, I heard my dad come home and I regained the power to run out of the bathroom. Ever since this, I don't listen to music in the shower.